All right, here we go. Once again, want to thank Tony Finn for playing a little game of pickup there over the weekend, providing us with some fantastic footage. It is another edition of the NBA Tip-Off Show. It is powered by WagerTalk.com, but who we kidding here, Finn? You don't have that good a shot. So, Bryan Leonard joining us here today. Bri, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. It's good to be back on the show.
Good to have you here. Of course, Tony Finn, Bryan Leonard can be found at WagerTalk.com. Probably a good idea for you guys to scoot on over there today. It is $9 Monday, which means everything $9, including Bry's got a package up there, I believe, of some college hoops games there right now. $9 available to you at WagerTalk.com. And Finn, you got a little combo package working yourself there, don't you?
I do, too, and I'm under direct orders to only shoot layups because my shot's not very good.
Yeah, no, your shot,
so these two are absolute. They're better than layups. They're slam dunks.
Yeah, no, we don't want you shooting even from the foul line. We don't want you shooting anything like that. But speaking of which here, guys, plenty of action on the card here today. Some interesting games. A little quick review of what we caught from over the weekend. And, of course, the big story, guys. Injuries. Luka Doncic looks like he might be out for a little time there, taking on the Miami Heat. I believe that was Saturday night. Some sort of ankle twisting going on early on. He didn't come back in that game. The Miami Heat end up beating them again. And now, all of a sudden, Bri, we're stuck with a situation. If you want to back Dallas, we just don't know when to back Dallas or what to do now that he's off the court.
Yeah. He's supposed to be gone for about 2 weeks, I think. He's such a distributor on that team. It's not like you've got a center that's out and he's your low post threat. He's basically the guy who's in charge of the ball all day long, and that's the concern you have here. Normally when a player is out, Marco D'Angelo talks about this injured player theory. That team comes out and plays well the very next game, which we would expect out of Dallas here, but they're playing against a team in Milwaukee that's just crushing everyone. They're the Eastern Conference version of Dallas here, and the question you got to ask yourself is this the right line? Because without him in the game, what do you drop off? I knocked it off 4 points. I'm probably being a little conservative here without him in the game, but just because it's the first game back, and it's really a showdown for Dallas going against the best team in the East here. So we'll have to see how this goes, but it'll be something to keep an eye on game to game and see how efficient this offense is without him.
Anywhere between 10.5 to 11.5 on the board right now, 227 in this game tonight with the Dallas Mavericks. And, Tony, it couldn't have happened at the worst time. You got Dallas 17-8. Their next 4 games beginning tonight, Milwaukee, Boston, Philadelphia, Toronto. That's a gauntlet, man, to have without your best player in the lineup.
It is. It's a gauntlet to have with your best player in the lineup. To be honest with you, I think the line speaks to this. I think the line's starting to speak to the Bucks. They've been really good actually against the West. I think they're 7-1 against the West this year. However, against the number, I believe they're 3-5. So the one thing, I believe that the bookmakers in the first month or 2 months of the season would make Milwaukee a double-digit favorite against themselves. If they were playing themselves, they'd be a double-digit favorite. They're always going to be a double-digit favorite, almost, unless, of course, they're playing the Lakers and say the Lakers. Really, truthfully, the numbers that we've received on the Lakers, I think, have been quite generous. They continue to be smaller than what I expect. While they didn't cover, they didn't do real well on this road trip. They've been really good against the number. They've been really good straight up. What's Milwaukee? 25-3, guys. 25-3, 11.5 point favorite tonight without Doncic. I like. I'll just go ahead and spit it out. I still like Dallas tonight. I mean, this is a Milwaukee team that has been really, really good. I don't believe they're interested in covered. We've talked about this on the show, and given the fact that this is their first really postseason, or at least postseason contender, I think the last 4 games that they have taken part in were pretty much lottery teams, vacations, 4-game vacation for them. So even without Dallas's best player, they're going to have to be at their best to cover this number tonight. I like Dallas.
expect more Porzingis, Delon Wright, Brunson, Barea, Tim Hardaway. They're going to have to rotate some of these guards into this game to get, the guy's averaging 30 points a game there, Brian. Yep. It's not like you can just, you can just drop that out of the sky. So there's going to be, especially somebody like Porzingis, going to have to step it up here at this point. Yeah,
definitely. And Tony talked about the Bucks and the easy schedule they've had. Last time they played a contender was against the Clippers on the 6th, and they win that game 119-91. It was one of those games I don't think the Clippers really gave the full effort there. I don't know if that was in their game plan. You have these problems all the time with the rest, but you take a look at the schedule for Milwaukee, and other than playing Utah on November 25th, winning the game by 4. Tony mentioned it. They played a lot of bad teams, so. Even though Dallas, the players want to get out and show what they want to do, it wouldn't surprise me if Milwaukee comes out here with extra fire here tonight going against a contender, even though they are without their best player. I made the line 11, so it's right where I made it, so I'll be passing on this one.
All right, doing the old pass job. Finn's still liking Dallas. He came right out and said it. Didn't even tempt, just went out and blurted it out, and there you go. He's all over Dallas here tonight, getting the points against the Bucks. Another interesting game. We're talking about those Miami Heat trying to do anything and everything to get rid of Dion Waiters. Probably not going to happen before the trade deadline, although we're having a lot of fun here in the Miami media making fun of this guy who called in sick and then posted pictures of himself on a yacht hanging out with a bunch of strippers there during the week. Bit of a problem there, Finn. Even you might admit that might be a bit of a problem. Stay off of Instagram if you're going to go and call in sick and go hang out with a bunch of strippers on a boat in Miami.
Well, I don't think it's anyone's going to claim that he's a genius for doing such. However, I kind of like him.
Yeah,
kind of like that. I kind of like it. I don't begrudge him 1 minute if he can get away with it. Even more so. But
would have been great to have an invite. I'm just saying. But
listen,
Miami started out Friday night, right, taking on the Lakers at home. The number kept going up. Didn't quite make any sense. We were doing the show on Friday. We're trying to figure out this number. We all liked the over. We just weren't sure. Lakers, we thought the Lakers would win it rather easily. They won. Wasn't easy, but they ended up winning. And then, of course, Miami takes on Dallas, wins that game on the road. Now they find themselves on the road taking a Memphis team that has Ja Morant back. They've gotten a little healthier here. It opened up at 4.5 points for the Miami Heat as a road favorite. 216.5 is the total. And Bri, are you looking at this game here? It's a tough stretch from Miami at this point.
Yeah, it definitely is. Both teams playing in a third game in 4 days. Miami's played. They get the last 3 games against Dallas. Get that game that goes to overtime. The game before that, they play the Lakers, lose by 3. Game before that, they play Atlanta, and they have to go to overtime there. And the game before that, they only win by 5 against Chicago. So Miami's been involved in a lot of close games, and including 2 overtimes. Now they're going on the road, third game in 4 days for both of these teams. I made the line a little bit cheaper. This is probably the best side I have on the card tonight is in Memphis. I just think the line is a little bit too much for Miami. I have a little bit lower. I haven't decided if I'm releasing it to the clients yet, but I'm looking at it right now. And you take a look at the books on the board, and the sharpest book in the world has got the best line on Miami. That tells me once again that Memphis may be the side to go here. I don't know if I'm going to give it out for my clients or give it out as a free play, but that's what I'm looking at right now is Memphis against Miami. Just the stretch that they've been on has just been a horrendous stretch, real tight games. And you take a look, Tony and I are really big baseball fans, and when you take a look at pitching, you take a look at high leverage situations from a pitcher. Miami's been in high leverage situations all week.
Well, I got to tell you, Finn, it's interesting. Both of these teams over the last 5 games are averaging 233 points a game while giving up 226. The total's at 219 here in this guy. I don't know. Is this a total game? Do you think we got tired legs, or do you like no defense?
Well, that's a good question. It's a great question. If I was going to have a lean here, and I do have a lean here, I would lean to the over in this game. I believe this is. I think Brian hit the nail right on the head. This is a situation where I would expect Miami to have a letdown. One of the things we talked about, not in this show, but another show that I do that you're very familiar with, Joe, on Friday night, was I really when Miami lost to Lakers, I thought the situation was almost perfect. They had to travel into Dallas. You know, Dallas is coming off that big win in Mexico City, had a day's rest, and when this game started, I wasn't paying attention. Let's put it that way. I checked the first quarter and I said, "What? I'm down 20," and I hadn't heard anything about the injury, et cetera, with Dallas. And I thought, well, that's pretty. I'm laying 6.5 with Dallas to Miami, and I said the game's over. And then, of course, I check again about game time, about the end of game time in the final, and it goes to overtime. So they made that number up against Miami. Miami had to work hard. They worked really hard against L.A. They lost at home. Their first loss. The comments by the other panel was that, Tony, don't put too much emphasis on that situational play. They really believed Miami was going to be mad and ready to win on the road. Now they did win. I don't know if it was as much their play or whether it was Dallas, having to have some initial, what do you want to call it, shock, that now they're going to be without their best player. They did gather themselves. They did play well and almost beat Miami, being down over 24 at one time. Tonight, let's put it this way. Tonight, it's a letdown. I like Memphis here in the points. Memphis is playing well. They have their best player back. They have the ability to score. They're not the best defensive team, guys, but I think this is the spot where if Miami does win, I don't think they cover. I like Memphis in the points.
You guys talking about overtime here. Miraculously enough, you've got the San Antonio Spurs heading to Houston to take on the Rockets here. Opened up as a 10-point favorite for Houston. I'm seeing a whole bunch of 9.5s that are popping up. 231.5 the total. It's now 233, 233.5. And Bri, listen, San Antonio, that's 4 consecutive overtime games, including one in double overtime against Houston. I don't know. Have we seen such a schedule here, such a mark like this? It's been a hell of a rough run for this team.
It definitely has, and this is one of the teams that I just don't trust this year. You take a look when you're handicapping the NBA. You take a look at spot plays, and a lot of times the Spurs are showing up as a spot play to me, and they're just not putting in the effort. They're just not as good as what the lines maker has shown that they should be. So it's tough to trust the Spurs here, and you got a Houston Rockets team off of the loss at home to Detroit the other day, and Detroit a physical team down low, and something that could take advantage of this Houston team, who's more of a finesse team and shoots a lot of 3-pointers. So I would expect a nice effort here from Houston. The problem is the line is a little bit higher than what I wanted. I made it 9. And we're looking at 9.5, 10 here. So I don't know if I'm going to get involved. But, yeah, the San Antonio team, this is a rough stretch for me. You could actually see, the better thing may be the Houston points in this game, knowing that San Antonio's legs got to be a little bit tired here. Houston playing at home, their running style. If I was to look at it that way, Houston team total probably be the way to go.
It's interesting. Rockets, Tony, just 4-3 in the past 7 outings here. A stretch that includes, in fact, a double overtime setback here against the Spurs. Harden is being Harden again. He's throwing shots up all over the place, but not much of the rest of the lineup. And you and I have talked on the show a million times about that bench. It doesn't bring a lot of confidence to lay double digits here. What do you like in this game tonight?
Well, I think the line makes sense. You mentioned was it a record setting? Is it 4 overtime games?
It's crazy. Including
is
one
it a
double.
record? It has to be close to a record if it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is the youngest team Pops had to tutor at this stage of the season, or the beginning of the season as well. Houston's head and shoulders better than this team. Every position on the floor. But you're correct. This is one of the weakest benches in the NBA, Houston's, and it's very difficult to depend on them to close out a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. You've seen it already. You've seen Harden sit fourth quarters, score 50, and just sit fourth quarters. So, putting your money on that, there's some risk that comes with that. I agree with you.
Yep. Also, total here, guys. The under is 5 and worse in their Spurs' last 6 against teams with winning records here. It's also 5-2 in the Rockets' last 7 following a loss. The number's holding strong here, Finn. I mean, it's right around that 231 it opened up, but it's already been bet up. Do we need a lot to go wrong for San Antonio not to hit the over here?
No, I don't think we do. I think a lot has to go wrong with Houston for us not to hit the total over here. I like. Listen, Houston's going to have it. They have their way. This San Antonio team doesn't defend the 3-point line very well. They've done a little better job as the season's gone along. Don't get me wrong. Early in the season, they were a fade to play against, and they're slowly fading from being a fade. But tonight's a good spot. If someone could tell me, hey, Harden, everybody's going to play full 4 quarters, they're going to play the 34, 35 minutes, then I'm on Houston minus the points, but no one's told me yet, Joe.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem, mostly because nobody likes talking to you. Brian, let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, your team, my man. I know near and dear. I know you got your whole Baker Mayfield jersey and things, and you love everything Cleveland. So let's talk about the Raptors here tonight. Still a little banged up. Still no Fred VanVleet. Cleveland on their way. Toronto laying 12.5, 13. The total right around that 217 mark here. I don't know, man. It's I want to say it's an easy win for Toronto, laying double digits at home against the Cavaliers team. I mean, you tell me. You love Cleveland sports here. Have they quit on Bielema yet? What's the deal with Cleveland? Can we just not trust them to score enough points ever?
No, they have some talent. They're so young. They don't know how to work together yet. That's the problem with Cleveland. And, Cleveland comes out and plays the other day against the Spurs we talk about, and they win that game in overtime, 117-109. Game before that, they played a good game against Houston. Lose that game 116-110. They had that streak where they played a little bit. They played really good earlier in the season, maybe about a month ago. And then they went to hell. And the problem you have with these teams in Cleveland is, number one, they don't have a lot of talent, and the talent they do have, they're looking to trade. And that's unfortunate, but teams need to learn how to win. And you watch these games for Cleveland, and they'll play stretches where they look like everything's coming together. And then all of a sudden, they get on a negative stretch, and good teams either call a timeout or they make a substitution, and they're able to slow down the opposition when they get on one of these runs. Cleveland's been giving up on defense. Some of these runs have just been historic this year. The team will score, 15, 20 straight points, and the Cavs don't have an answer for it, and that's what really hurts them. Same thing happens to Golden State because of their youth and lack of talent over there. Is they're right in the game for a long time, then all of a sudden, you get a 5-minute stretch where they got scored 20-0, and the game is over. And that's the problem with Cleveland. They just have a hard time putting out more positive stretches than negative. And the thing is, their positive stretches, they're a little bit better than the opposition. The negative stretches, they're just getting crushed.
Yep. And it's let's face it, guys, this is a problem. Raptors are 10-3 at home. Cleveland has lost 15 of its last 17 overall. I mean, Finn, do you trust Toronto to lay double digits here?
The most difficult variable to teach in sports might be defense in basketball. It's just difficult to motivate a player to be defensive, especially if they believe they're an offensive machine. I'm not saying that any of the Cleveland players are this, but this team's 8-20. I think they're 8-20. They're going to lose. They're going to lose games much more than they're going to win games. So what we have to decide is where's that value backing the Cavs and getting points. Here's the problem so far. Anyone who believed in Cleveland at this point in time, I think they're 1-12 straight up in their last 13, 3-10 against the spread, and in 9 of those, they have lost against the number by double against the number by 9 points or more. So there's two things here. We're waiting for an adjustment from the odds makers, or we're waiting for these Cleveland players to give more effort, or as our panelist, our good friend Bryan Leonard said, they're gonna have to learn to win. They need to learn to, first and foremost, when you're losing against the spread by 10 points, something has to. We either have to play against Cleveland or wait for them, the books to make the adjustment, or Cleveland to give more effort. I guess. You tell me, how do you lose?
I got
double
tell
digits
you,
against
you
the spread?
Can't. I mean, that's the problem here. And then to me, it's almost they're such a good defensive team, especially at home. I don't see Cleveland scoring 100 points here tonight, which is why it would be very hard for me to back anything but the under in this matchup. because you ain't, you're going to make it to 90 points if you're lucky, and Toronto's not going to really need to do much more than just, score 105. I think it's got underwritten all over it, but it is Toronto is one of these teams where I think they're starting to go through that stretch where they're trying to figure it out as some of the pieces are getting a little hurt. It was a rough stretch for them there, Bri, where they kind of, some of the better teams came in and kind of beat them up a little bit there, and all of a sudden maybe they're not as good as they were last year. I think Kawhi came into town there. He got his ring, and I think he made sure when he left, he let everyone know, you're not the same team without me.
Yeah, that's we talked about this a few weeks ago where Toronto was riding high, and I caught a little bit of grief going against them because I thought they were just too overly overrated at the time. This is actually the first time all season long that Toronto's been a double-digit favorite in a game, so it's an area they're not used to being in. Cleveland, it all comes down to pride, and I don't think a lot of these young kids have the pride on the defensive end that maybe a Thompson or a Love do. And that's the problem you're running into, especially when you've got a head coach that's known for his defense.
Right.
And when you get in the NBA, these kids just want to get out, especially nowadays where you're seeing these totals in the 220s and the 230s. I mean, we just know a few years ago, we're looking at games where in the 190s.
Yes.
So it's a totally different game now than it was, just a few years ago. So rarely do you get paid for your defensive abilities when in major sports. But baseball's coming around on that, especially from the catcher standpoint and defense. The defensive players are starting to get paid a little bit more. Until that happens, guys are just going to want to get out there and score as many points as possible. And, from a fan perspective, there's a group of fans that like to see the highlights. They like to see the dunks. They like to see the three-pointers. Yep. There's not many guys like us that have been around and like the defense. They like close ball games in baseball and that kind of thing. It's a different world now than it was just a decade ago.
So true to that, man. And listen, it hasn't changed much here at WagerTalk.com. It is still $9 Monday, which means you can head over to WagerTalk.com. And for $9, packages available by both Brian and Tony right now. Available. All you got to do is go there. Package of 3 games, college hoops tonight there for Brian. And we've got a combo pack with Tony available just for $9. You got to get over to WagerTalk.com. Take advantage of it. Once 11:59 hits tonight, it's gone, and most of the games will be over anyway. And that's some hell of a math. It's Tony Finn math I just did right there. So
spot on.
Yeah, that's very good. So why don't we go ahead here, guys? Let's talk a best bet here tonight if you have one, whether it be an underdog or a game you are looking at. I'll start with you, Bri. What's one of your best bets that you're looking at here tonight?
Yeah, this Portland-Phoenix line has been bouncing around all day long based on some of the injury information coming out of Phoenix. The line's basically about a pick right now, and to me, I think Phoenix is a better ball club than Portland is. Phoenix may be without their best player. Last I saw that he was questionable before the night started. He was out, so maybe we'll see the shooting guard for Phoenix back in this game. But I think Phoenix at home is with the 3 points. She would give them for a home court 3.5, something like that. They're telling you that Portland's 3.5 points better without this player for Phoenix, the guard for Phoenix. So I think there's some value here on Phoenix. I'm not going to give it out to clients. It's a small card today. I did pass, but it's something I'm taking a look at. I'm going to investigate it a little bit more. And if I can get the Phoenix that he may be playing.
Booker,
then I think Phoenix is a cheap number here.
Still questionable here so far this morning as of taping. And how about you, Tony? Where are you leaning here tonight? What's your best bet for us?
It's a good thing we don't choreograph these shows, because I was smiling there when Brian was giving out his, because I like Portland tonight. I like Portland tonight.
Best part of the show right now.
It really is, isn't it?
Yep.
I think Portland's gotten better. We've talked about this on In-Game Live many times about how bad this Portland team was early on. They had some big adjustments to make. They really lost a lot of key pieces from last year's team, and many of those pieces were bench players, the second rotation. Curry, for example, I think was a huge loss for this team. And they've made some adjustments. They're scoring right now. Unless you're a pretty good defensive team, you're going to get 120 points out of Portland, and I'm banking on Phoenix being without their best player tonight. So if Portland scores 120, Phoenix can't compete. I like Portland.
There you go. Portland it is. You got one Portland, you got one Phoenix, you got one Toronto under. Those are your best bets, guys. So the bottom line is, good luck. Get over to WagerTalk.com. You got plenty of options. They are Bryan Leonard, Tony Finn, available today, $9 Monday. Gentlemen, it is always a pleasure. Bri, good luck to you, my friend. Don't forget, $9 gets you his 3 college hoops games here tonight. Tony's got a college and a pro game available for $9 at WagerTalk.com. Finn, unfortunately, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bryan, I will talk to you later in the week. Best of luck, gentlemen. Always a pleasure. Thank you for remembering to show up. Good luck, guys.
Remember, Cleveland fans, 3 months to spring training.
Can't you shut his mic off?
And they just traded away one of their best starters.
You can't shut his mic off. Have a good one, guys. Talk to you
guys.
soon. Yep, very
All right,
good.
cheers. Ciao.